The title of this poem is It's About the Ponies. I'm at the racetrack with Zoot, and we're both drinking coffee now because the bourbon has us down. And he doesn't like how I bet. So I make the run and buy us. I started writing when I was a kid, probably about 11, 12. By the time I was 13, I kind of felt like I was going to be a writer for sure. As far as writing poetry, didn't start to think seriously about poetry until I got to college. But before then, Gwendolyn Brooks, her poem is what led me into poetry. The poem "We Real Cool" for the Pool Players 7 at the Golden Shovel. It's the one summer we were in New Jersey. I think I was about maybe 16. Me and my friends, we walked into a shop, and there was a poster with this poem on the wall, and we read it and learned it right on the spot, and it showed me that there's some power in it that poetry can bring to a situation. So that's why I started writing poems, because it's very short. We real cool, we left school, we lurk late, we strike straight, we sing sin, we thin gin, we jazz June, we die soon. When we read that poem, it was like it was speaking directly to us. I grew up mostly in North Carolina, lived in New York until I was about maybe 12, 13, and then we moved back to North Carolina. I was born in North Carolina. Where I lived is Gates County. It's on the eastern part of the state. It's about 50 miles south of Norfolk, Virginia. It's a great dismal swamp. In New York, when I lived in New York, it was just like anybody else. I had a lot of friends in the neighborhood, played a lot of ball, baseball, a lot of football, rode a lot of bike. When we moved to North Carolina, that's when I discovered basketball. That's when I also discovered apartheid. North Carolina was at that time very much a segregated state. Got early and deep memories of being in that kind of condition. I had never before seen a white water fountain or a colored water fountain or a white door and a colored door, restrooms. I didn't know that you couldn't walk into any place and buy a hamburger if you had to be a certain color. And that's what North Carolina was for me. Completely segregated school system, my first time being involved in anything like that. My friends in New York had been from like all cultures, and we all walked to school, lived in the same neighborhoods, and all our folks weren't, so we hung out together after school. In North Carolina, there was a white school and a black school. Even though we lived on the same roads, it wasn't possible for us to go to school together or even to play sports against each other. So we marched. My parents didn't have the right to vote once we moved back to North Carolina, so me and my brother were part of a demonstration all the time. It led to us becoming really radical. I don't compromise on anything concerning my civil rights, my human rights, or my personal dignity. And that's what led us into, we became very militant living in North Carolina. 68, 1970, around then. Well, my friends at that time were mostly athletes and what people call the thinkers, the radicals, the Black Power boys. That was us. It's when we stepped into the Black Panther Party and, just tried to do something to really serve African Americans, the whole community. Yeah, we were getting picked up for anything. My brother was a political prisoner. He did 7 years in state penitentiary as a youthful offender. A lot of my friends were in that same situation. You know, like going to jail is not a disclaimer to your character where I'm from. It's, especially if you know that the conditions are constructed to put you there. You know. So you deal, you survive. But one thing that the old folks have always told us, well, at least our generation, was that the only thing they can never take away from you is your education. So we believed in that, and we basically educated ourselves. We had good teachers who taught us outside the curriculum because they were teachers at the black school, and the state curriculum wasn't addressing us. So they taught us all that too. And the rest, you know, like you're responsible for your own education here. And that's one of the ways I survived. The other way was through art. I started writing. And I stayed there. You know. At that time, stories, mostly stories. Like I said, it wasn't until later, after I discovered Miss Brooks, that I started writing poems. I'm trying to write poems. And some of my early influences were, of course, Brooks, and then Leroy Jones, who we know now as Amiri Baraka. But his first book really got my attention. Preface to a 20-volume suicide note, that whole book. And then I discovered Ephraim Knight, Sonia Sanchez, and then I went back further in our history, and that's when I found Langston and County Cullen and Sterling Brown, those people. I wanted to write like them all. Probably the person I wanted to write the most, that I wanted to write like the most, was James Baldwin. I thought he had some beautiful prose. At the same time, he's speaking to these issues, the issue of race in America. And he got my attention. Right now, I'm writing a biography of Baldwin. It's under contract, and that should be coming out, you know, sometime soon once I get it finished. Gwendolyn Brooks is probably, I think, there has ever been a poet laureate, not just of Illinois, but of African Americans. I think she would have to be considered that poet laureate. Her books and her poems span our entire existence in this country. She does it through classical form. She does it through free verse, and her discovery of the Black arts movement was really what kind of, to me, led me into it. She's going there. And she let Third World Press and these young people publish her books. And she was just an amazing woman. I met her several times. The last was probably about a year or so before she died. And he doesn't like how I bet. So I make the run and buy us 2 grande styrofoam cups. I take the long shots black with sugar. He reads racing forms and tracks how the local ponies ran the last 4 Fridays at Pimlico. He contends good horses only lose when the jockeys stop whipping them. So he digs slap-happy drivers and always checks to see who's holding the reins. And I say, I like my horses smiling.